Hello, I'm Lester Lee and welcome back to Movies Now at SavannahNow.com. This week, like I promised last week, I'm going to tell you everything I thought about Law Abiding Citizen, as well as talk about Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant, and Astro Boy.
And now for our feature presentation.
Law Abiding Citizen is basically everything you see in the trailer. It doesn't go much more in depth, but it's awesome. Clyde Shelton, played by Gerard Butler, is robbed of his family at the very beginning of the movie when two men break into his house and murder his wife and young daughter. The main murderer actually goes free, however, after he agrees to testify against the other man involved in the burglary, who in turn gets the death penalty. Shelton loses faith in the justice system and is very angry that the man who killed his family is walking free, but he doesn't react immediately. He bides his time for 10 years, at which point the man who got the death penalty is scheduled to be executed. At the execution, the supposedly pain-free execution becomes very painful, and it is obvious that someone has tampered with the mechanism used to kill him. And then it shows Shelton tracking down the other man who was involved in the murder and brutally ripping him limb from limb with a bandsaw, cutting off his toes with pliers, and just killing him in the most painful way possible. Now, this is how Gerard Butler's character, Shelton, decides to get his revenge and prove the flaws in the justice system by picking off each person involved in his case, one by one. It's kind of like Taken, because I like to call Taken Liam Neeson kills everyone in France in an hour and a half, and this is more like Gerard Butler kills everyone. Now, I'm not going to give away the ending, but it's kind of predictable, but I don't think it took away from the movie. I think it was pretty awesome.
Are they still killing people?
I found a couple of contract payments from the Department of Defense.
Tell us what we're dealing with. A spy?
Spies are a dime a dozen. Clyde has a brain, and he was the best. If Clyde wants you dead, you're dead.
We're gonna lock the city down, put an armed cop on every corner.
He's in jail because he wants to be in jail.
I'm going to bring the whole system down on your head. It's got to be biblical.
Now, Law Abiding Citizen definitely isn't an earth-moving film. It's sometimes a little forced, sometimes a little bit too unrealistic, and the ending was a little predictable. But I didn't go in expecting to have my mind blown. I just went in expecting to see an hour and a half of Gerard Butler being awesome, and that's what you get. Now, there was no fight scene, which was a little weird to me, but you get to see all the blood and gore and gadgets that you could hope for. So this movie's probably a little bit mainly for the men, but for the women, you get to see Gerard Butler almost completely naked. Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant is based off of the first 3 books of the Saga of Darren Shan, written by Darren Shan, and is centered around a boy named Darren Shan, who is your average kid. He generally stays out of trouble and gets relatively good grades. Until one week, he and his friend Steve discover that there's a traveling freak show coming to town, and they decide to do everything within their power to attend. They finally get in, and they see everything you would expect, like a bearded lady and a reptile boy, and a vampire. Darren immediately feels things inside his body begin to change, and he becomes a newly initiated member of the undead. He joins the freak show himself and starts to use his newly found powers and becomes a valued pawn in the battle between the vampires and their deadlier counterparts in the ending of a 200-year-old truce. If you can't wait until the second movie of Twilight comes out and you really like horrible vampire movies, then I guess you could go see The Vampire's Assistant.
Do I have super spit now?
Yes, you have super spit. You'll be able to do all kinds of things.
Can I, like, turn into a bat and stuff?
No, that's bull. They're looking for you, Darren. Prepare to die.
Check this out.
Just like a real vampire.
That is one awesome vampire power, man.
Astro Boy also comes out this weekend, and it is based on a long-running series of manga of the same name. In the movie, we see a scientist who, in grieving after losing his young son, decides to make a powerful robot in the image of his son in hopes that it can take his place. But when he finishes, he realizes that it's just not the same and the robot will never be his son, so he is unpleased with it. The robot decides to leave Metro City and go to the world below and joins a robot gladiator and gets tangled up in all sorts of things, and all the while trying to be a superhero to win the approval of his father and be accepted. Now, I guess if you are into manga, then you probably already knew this movie was coming out and you're very excited. Personally, however, I would go see Saw 6. Now, like I said, I would rather go see Saw 6, and that means that, yes, Saw 6 is also coming out this weekend. But, like I did for Law Abiding Citizen last week, I'm not going to talk about it this week because I'm going to go see it and tell you everything I think about it next week. Now, if you've seen all the Saws like I have, then you probably agree that they get progressively worse. But by now, I feel obligated to see them all, so let's cross our fingers and maybe this one will be better. So you can see Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant, Astro Boy, and Saw 6 all opening on Friday, October 23rd, 2009. And of course, there's Law Abiding Citizen, which came out last week, and I highly recommend it. For local times and listings, go to savannahnow.com/do/moviesnow. And once again, this is Lester Lee from Movies Now at savannahnow.com.